we're going to move indoors and learn a bit more about the winemaking side of the operation. And joining me now is Jim Kakcek, the winemaker and general manager. Thanks for joining me, Jim.
Well, thanks for visiting us.
Well, we talked a bit about location with Norbert. Can you tell me, how does that location direct what kind of wine you grow?
Well, your location dictates what your climate is, and your climate dictates what kind of varietals of grapes you can grow. For example, Willamette Valley is a fairly cool climate, so we do well with Pinot Noir, which is kind of the flagship wine of Oregon. We also do well with Chardonnay, Riesling, Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, all the cold varietal types. Gewürztraminer, German varietal will be another one.
Okay. And you actually grow quite a few different varieties of Pinot Noir.
We are actually growing different clones of Pinot Noir. They're not different varieties.
Okay.
So we've got a list here of what we have planted here, but you can see a little better on this map how our blocks are laid out. They're laid out by clone. So we have Wädenswil, we have Pommard, we have one called Mariafeld. We have the Dijon Clones, which have the numbers on them. Pinot 113, 114, 115, and so forth. And something new for us, what we just planted last year, is some Syrah. We've got a piece of our property that faces due south. It gets full sun exposure, so it gets quite a bit warmer there. A little too warm for Pinot Noir, and just on the cool edge for Syrah.
Okay.
So kind of excited about that.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit, how do the different clones of the Pinot Noir, how are they different?
They've all kind of developed in different areas, and they've acclimated themselves to different environments. And Pinot Noir is one of the most genetically unstable grapes that there are, so there's many, many different commercial available clones. But we have the Wädenswil, which actually came from Switzerland. We have the Mariafeld, which came from Germany, and those do well in cooler years. They've got thicker skins on them. They tend to ripen even in moderate, not so sunny conditions. And then we have the Pommard, which actually came from Chateau Pommard in France, and it does really well in the warmer, more classic, wine area climes, more Mediterranean. Then recently, maybe in the last 20 years, we've started getting the Dijon Clones, which were isolated from vineyards in Saint-Denis and Burgundy. I believe it was the University of Dijon that went out, asked around, said, hey, what vines do you got that ripen early and taste good? They got samples, checked them, and these clones are now commercially available here in the U.S.
Okay, so their flavors are going to vary from year to year and with the
They're going to be fairly consistent year to year. There's going to be some vintage change, but for example, the Wädenswil, the 777 and the 667 tend to have fairly dark, rich colors and darker fruit characteristics, whereas the Pommard and the 113, 115 tend to be a little lighter, more cherry, cranberry kind of quality to it. So the clone does make a big difference in the flavor. Okay,
and because of that, when you harvest your grapes, you actually keep your different clones separated.
That's correct. As we're harvesting, for example, the Pinot Noir 115 here, we got 4 or 5 tons out of that. That will all go into one tank, get treated as one lot. The Homestead block, occasionally we'll get more than 2 tanks out of that, 2 large tanks and 1 small tank. And then each one of those tanks, even though they're all from the same place, will be designated as a different lot. They may be treated a little bit differently, a different yeast, a different fermentation protocol, take a little different style and flavor out of them.
Excellent. Well, let's go take a look at the other hills.
Let's do it.
Well, Jim, what are some of the advantages of keeping the separate blocks in these different lots?
What that allows us to do is go through and watch the development of the different flavors, and then when we assemble the final blends, we can match our style and our expectations to the wine that we're making, so we can really go through and fine-tune the flavor profile of the wine. So we can do our block designates, which will come out of one block if it's the Homestead or the Flagpole, or our Dijon Blocks or West Side will come out of multiple blocks, but it allows us to really pinpoint the quality.
and be able to match,
Mm-hmm.
add
Be
just enough
consist-
to get the right flavor.
Exactly, and be consistent in style year to year.
Okay, and this individuality is carried up even into the barrel. You go ahead and age some of these in barrels?
As it comes in, we usually go into a tank, generally with grapes out of one block. When that tank is then pressed off, that wine then goes into a separate batch of barrels. They're marked as such, so I can track each barrel back to the vineyard where it came from.
And one of the advantages there is that if you have a very remarkable wine in one year, it's kept
separate, and
separately.
we can pull it out. We're now doing something for the wine club, the winemaker's barrel, which I get to do whatever I want. I've got no rules on how I do it. And we can take out those really exceptional lots that don't quite fit into one of our block designates.
Okay, well, let's go maybe sample
I think we
finished
could try
product.
a little bit.
Well, we've seen how you've kept the lots separate all the way through the barrel. How does that relate out into the final product here?
Well, we've got most of our lineup here. We're missing a few. But for example, our estate Pinot Gris, all the Pinot Gris off the property goes into that bottling.
Okay.
Our estate Pinot Noir, that's our largest bottling, and 2007 will be roughly 8,000 cases, comes from all portions, all areas of the property. But here we go to our 2005 flagpole block. 100% of that comes from the flagpole block, which is Dijon Clone, and that's our limiting factor. It has to come from that area. And when we go over here to the Dijon Blocks, the requirement there is that it all be Dijon Clones to make up that blend.
Okay.
And all these are roughly about 300 cases annual production if we decide to do it. And we didn't produce any in 2006, but when we do, it's a very small, limited amount.
Okay. Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about before we close is the live certification, the label here, and your sustainability efforts that you go through.
Yeah, it's really a kind of a mindset in your business structure model and how you view the world, I think. There's being sustainable is good for business. Doesn't make you any money to be out of business, in 2 or 3 years. So you got to take care of the land that takes care of you. And what we do is we limit the amount of inputs we have on it. We try not to use harmful chemicals. We try not to use excess energy, do the recycling, do all that stuff. Sustainability has become a bit of a catchphrase, marketing term, but it's really something that we've done for a long time, not because it just helps the longevity of the winery, but it also helps our bottom line.
Excellent. Well, Carl and Marilyn Thoma, who own Van Duzer Winery, were unable to join us while we were here in Oregon, but we certainly appreciate them inviting us out to tape here, and we appreciate all your help, Jim, and that of Norbert as well. So, thank you again.
This is our 2006 Estate Pinot Noir.
Excellent. Cheers.
Cheers.